and welcome to the Last Looks podcast, a show where we catch up with talented hairstylists and makeup artists in the film and television industry. We'll pick their super creative brains and find out all the good stuff. Join me, your host, Jamie Lee, in finding out what's what in the hair and makeup departments around the world.
Now it's time for Kit Corner, where we shine a spotlight on artists who've created products with the film and television industry in mind. Products designed by artists for artists.
Hi, Diane.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, good, thank you. Hey, now yourself and James McKinnon have created something pretty special, an education platform for makeup artists called Beauty Masterclass. Now, what is Beauty Masterclass and how did it come about?
So Beauty Masterclass is a place for makeup artists to kind of upgrade their education. So if you have already gone through school or if you are self-taught and you're working and you found that you just want to upgrade your educations. You know, I found in makeup school, I only did one day on certain skin tones or one day on certain types of makeup. And it really wasn't enough to make me proficient enough to get a job or to go and be confident enough to be on set as an assistant with a makeup artist or to even go out for that job after I've been an assistant. And I found that I really needed more education. So this is what we have decided to do is bring together a bunch of makeup artists and say, here's where you learn how to be a professional makeup artist and gain that extra experience once you've already done some schooling or gotten some education and you just want to up your game a little bit.
That's very cool. I think being able to see another person do it with their techniques and everything as well is always very helpful.
Oh, absolutely. We have numerous makeup artists. It's about seeing the person's technique. And I found that we're artists. There is no one way to do this. This isn't a math equation. There are so many ways to do the same thing and you'll end up with a similar result. But it's about finding someone who speaks to you and who really does create and think the way that you do, who can help you learn and get to that next level.
So what do you think sets Beauty Masterclass apart from other online education platforms?
I think it's the fact that we have some incredible instructors. Our instructors, some have Emmys, some have Oscars, some have been printed all over the world in print and media and have done fashion shows for major fashion lines. So I think that we've really just gone out there and gone to get the best of the best in our industry. And we are continuously looking for those people. So anybody who's out there who's looking to teach what they know, they should definitely get in contact with us.
There's awesome, a great variety too, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. We want to make sure that we hit all aspects of our beauty industry. It's not just film and TV, it's also runway, it's editorial, it's print, it's weddings are a huge, massive part of our industry. And it's something that I find a lot of times we really overlook.
That's awesome. Now, what type of education will people receive?
So that's a great question. We are not a school. We want to make sure that the schooling is being left to the schools and that we are here to help upgrade your education. So we know that you only touch on things for a day, maybe even half a day in makeup school, and that's really not enough experience to go out there and be confident in having a job. So we are that place where you can go and say, I really didn't get enough on beard laying, or I really didn't get enough on smoky eyes, or no makeup, whatever it is that you had trouble with. We really want to hone in on that and be able to make sure that you can buy that video, watch it numerous times. You can come back to the video, you can buy the makeup that you need, it's in your workbook, and you can come back and watch it over and over again for 6 months. You have that video at your disposal.
That's very cool. What can we look forward to seeing in the future from Beauty Masterclass?
Oh, we have so many great things. We are doing giveaways every week of the makeup that is used in each video. You will be able to win that makeup so that you can follow along with the class. And we also have an amazing, beautiful blog coming out with Amy Richardson. She is helping to create this beautiful blog where we are going to highlight the history of makeup artists, and where the makeup trends that we have today have come from in the past. And it's pretty comprehensive and a lot of education that will be totally free and available to makeup artists on our site. And also we are looking for contributors from all over the world. We'd like to talk about makeup styles and the history of makeup from everywhere in the world. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's great. And for those who want to get in on this action, where can they find Beauty Masterclass?
They can always find us online at beautymasterclass.com or on social media at Beauty Masterclass Online. And for your listeners, we have decided to give them 25% off until July 15th using the promo code LASTLOOKS25. That's all lowercase letters, LASTLOOKS25. And we're very excited to see what they buy and what they learn.
That is so cool. Thank you so much, Diane.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much.
Today, I'm speaking with hair designer Michelle Ceglia and makeup designer producer Eryn Krueger Mekash. These incredible women are responsible for creating the amazing looks on American Horror Story and also the Netflix miniseries Hollywood.
Pictures up.
Last looks. Rolling.
And action.
Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Hey, no problem. Now, Eryn, you're a makeup designer and producer, and Michelle, you are a hair designer. Can we start the conversation with how and when did you ladies first meet, and what was the first project you designed together?
I'm already laughing because I think when we first met, it was Horror Story season 1 when Zach got his hair in the rubber man suit.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
It's actually a good story because you had just finished Dexter like maybe a day before. I'm guessing, I don't even know, did you know Monty and that's how you came on? I don't even remember how you came on.
Gina and I knew each other, Sam,
That's right.
Gina Bonaquisti, and they introduced me to Monty. And so he brought me on to help out. And day one, we had 2 units, I think, because I was there with you and I don't remember who else, but like, do you want to tell? I'm basically, okay, the rubber man suit many people wore, and it was always a thing with the hair that a hairdresser would have to help, with the getting the mask on and off.
We hadn't quite finessed the zipper hair little placket thing underneath there.
Yeah, okay.
Taking this off in the scene, and I was watching him, and one point, I don't know what happened, but it was like I turned my head, he takes it off in the scene, and the zipper fully got all of his hair like a mohawk.
Oh my God.
Meanwhile, I'm like, I don't really know anybody yet. And I was just like, the director was like, somebody get me scissors. And I was like, everyone just get back. I was like, no, we have to save this guy's hair. I don't even know this guy, but we have to save his hair.
It was crazy.
But this was the first day that Eryn and I met for sure.
Yes, I was like, oh, she's going to do fine here because you have to be, I mean, there's a lot of positive parts about being bossy, and some people just aren't cut out for being assertive on set, or like, I mean, having I think it was the first AD or second AD was like, get me some scissors. And you just go, what are you doing? Like, just step back. And Michelle was like, hold up. Hold on, let me do this. And I was like, oh, she's going to do great here. Like, I was like, yes, this is the person we need here. So that's how we met, kind of like if she was on set with me and I was just kind of like, hi, that kind of thing. And that was in 2011.
Okay.
So we just kind of did the American Horror Stories together, which was a lot. And then I'm trying to think of what the first show we designed together. I
was around thanks to Monty for 4 years before. But I mean, I feel like during that time, it was, the trailer was like one big family, and there was always design aspects being thrown, kind of out between the whole group in a way. But I mean, do we say Roanoke? Would Roanoke be the first?
I think so. Because you were doing Captain America on for Hotel, and that was Monty's last season. And I think then you came back on for Roanoke. Yeah, I guess that would be the first show that we designed together. But we've since done like all kinds of other shows. God, it just runs together. It just all kind of, it's like it's 2011, it's 2020. It's like, oh my God, we've done like 100 shows since then.
There's 10 seasons of Horror Story. Ryan's created 8 billion other shows.
Yeah.
It's
pretty amazing.
But the American Horror Story part, I think, is the most intensive. There's so much. All the shows are, but I think as far as having to constantly think on your feet that's American Horror Stories, that show.
That's amazing. I mean, it's covered so many periods and storylines, and I mean, it's really quite incredible. I still remember getting to the end of that first season and watching the first episode of the second season. And I was like, what is going on here? That's the guy from the first one, but this isn't, he's not playing the same character. Like, that to me was, I loved that so much. Throughout all of the American Horror Stories that you guys have done together so far, what would have to be your favorite season?
Well, I mean, there's a few. I mean, looking back on stuff, Michelle and I spent, I think it was like almost like a year and a half we spent in New Orleans on season 3 and 4 of American Horror Story. And the first year we were down there was so insane. And there was a lot of like personal stuff going on with people. And we all lived in the same apartment on the same floor, apartment building on the same floor. It was full dorm living. It was completely crazy. We were working pretty much like 100 hours a week. And,
oh my gosh.
you know, like 6 days a week, we would get home at 7 a.m. on Sunday mornings to then go back to work at 5 a.m. on Monday.
Oh, that turnaround's nasty.
It was we had like 24 hours off a week.
Oh.
And in that time, we managed to have a lot of drinks and a lot of sodium as far as the food we were eating and having a lot of fun, which, I mean, it sounds so insane, but we had so much fun as well. I mean, if we got through that as a team and all our team members, we're all still super close with everybody that lives in New Orleans that now live in Atlanta, of course. But we had that. Then going back to the next season, which we knew what we were getting into, it was completely a different, you know, theme. It was Freak Show. And we had a million different prosthetics and wigs. And I mean, it ran the gamut. There was like, you know, 8 people in prosthetics every day. Everybody had a wig on. Everybody had completely stylized period correct hair, and it was just insane, completely insane. So that was a whole different season, and that had a whole different vibe, just like the themes do. So
okay,
those two seasons are really crazy for me. I feel like Roanoke was a really fun season. I also really enjoyed Cult a lot though too, and so each one of them has such a different feel to it. I don't know, what do you think, Michelle?
Well, I mean, I think for me, yeah, I mean, every season has been special, and Coven and Freak Show extremely special and high up on the list. I will also say doing Apocalypse was really special because we got to recreate the characters from past seasons that the fans loved and that we loved. And it's like we got to have Jessica back and the whole Outpost thing, and like for hair we got to go nuts in the Outpost. So, you know, Sarah and her big giant red side of the Pacific Design Center hair. Those are like, I mean, good time. And, you know, Leslie with the bird cage, which Eryn helped me create.
Oh my goodness.
It was a wig with a bird cage on top, and Eryn helped with, I mean, really just scraping me off the floor, but also she like crafted the bird. She crafted a bird out of hair, and then she's like, "Oh, let's do little, you know, eggs and a nest." And I was like, "Oh my God, we're taking this to another level altogether." I mean, we have so much fun. I'm so grateful for all of it.
I think you had spent all this time creating this bird cage, and then didn't we have there was a lot of like a lack of amount of drivers in town that year, and we had a new driver that like whipped the trailer around and like tossed this incredible wig onto the ground.
So many wigs were on the ground.
Oh,
and they
my
were like,
God.
it was like the Leaning Tower of Pisa with like all the wires twisted, and you were like, oh my God.
And that was like wigs on top of wigs. That was
and then you had to make a second one. I think you had to make a second one for a stunt person. Oh my God. But it was fun to make the little bird, and oh God, yeah, we got a little out of hand with it, but it was really fun.
Well, yeah, that's when it gets fun, when you get a little out of hand.
like 90 miles an hour down Hollywood Boulevard over all the bumps. That's what happened.
Oh my God.
Like drawers were open. I haven't had that kind of thing since maybe like non-union days. Like it was crazy.
It's like Horror Stories hard enough, but then you literally just threw all the wigs and all the prosthetics everywhere.
Oh my God, that's what nightmares are made of.
And like scooping makeup into like the wash basin. You're like, what's this in here?
Oh
But
my
you know,
God.
it makes for such wonderful memories.
Oh yeah. Everything that was so chaotic then is like very laughable now, of course, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, what else are you going to do?
It's
Yeah.
true.
Did you drag that driver into the trailer to be like, look at what you did? Or
He was there for like a day. So I don't even know who that was, to be honest. We spoke to Transpo, but it wasn't someone that we knew to be like, look what you did. We would have if we knew who he was.
I think there was a lot of like biddy 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 from our captain and much apologizing. So what are you gonna do? I mean, things happen.
Yeah. Oh my God, I just remembered too. I'm like, that another thing that got destroyed was Evan as Mr. March. And anyway, there was a lot. But
there was like 2 or 3 wigs that you had. Oh my God, it was so insane. We just stood there with our mouths open.
Yeah, it's devastating, especially the amount of time you would have put into it. It's like your little baby and it's just been thrown on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, on Cult, please go ahead, drive the trailer fast. It wasn't that bad, but not on Apocalypse.
I know, it's so true.
So when you guys have your cast returning, but playing different characters, how challenging did you find that to keep coming up with new looks and new ideas for them? I mean, that must have been a lot of fun, but did it pose any challenges as well?
I think part of it is just having to come up with something original, but a lot of it is that, you know, Ryan Murphy is always has some idea of what he wants the characters to look like anyway. So we're already going in one direction and figuring out what he wants things to look like. But there's funny is once in a while on Instagram will pop up like all of Evan's characters that have ever been done. And you're like, holy cow. It's like, you know, there's 10 different looks or whatever of stuff he's done. And you're really surprised.
That was literally just in Cult.
Yeah.
No, I'm like, because remember, I think he literally did 8 to 10 characters just that year because we had to turn him into all the different cult leaders. That was one of my favorite
things to do, really. It was so much fun, and we just kind of got out of control with the well, initially Dave Anderson, who did all of our prosthetics for that season, he kind of was like, I have these Andy Warhol prosthetics, and what do you think about just go ahead and like doing it and like not saying anything about it? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So then Ryan started calling me prosthetic hag because I was like just going, look, he's wearing prosthetics, and Ryan didn't even okay it. I just kind of did it. Yeah. So and then all of a sudden it kind of got him in this role, I think, of going, oh, we could put a bunch of prosthetics on Evan to make him all these different people, and it just took off into this completely insane place where he was wearing, you know, 8-piece appliance makeups where we were taking them off while the sun was coming up, so then he could become Jesus Christ.
30-minute Jesus. We took him from Jim Jones, Jim Jones in a wig and fat makeup. Well, you know, the Jim Jones prosthetics. And the sun was coming up, and in 30 minutes, this was like such a fun moment. It was like me, Mike, and Eryn in the trailer, sun coming up, ripping everything off of him, and Dave ripping everything off of Evan, throwing everything on to make him Jesus, and then they put him on.
Yeah, like cables, and pulled him up into the sky. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, on another unit shooting across town was we were recreating all the Manson Tate murders.
Oh my God.
So that was happening on the other side of town, which was crazy and beautiful. But oh my God, that kind of stuff happens all the time. And I think we're just such masochists and we enjoy it so much, really.
Well, because we got it done. It was a huge accomplishment and so much fun.
That's the part of it that's fun, is let's see if we can do this. And we always do.
Yeah.
In terms of hair for creating different characters, I mean, yes, Ryan starts off with his inspiration and everything. I always try to keep track of everything that's been done and like adjust colors in a different direction and, you know, suggest colors and stuff that we haven't done before. different details.
There's so
you can
many
work
different
out.
looks that we do. It ends up being like, oh, well, that color was just like that season. Let's not do that, because really it's the fans are so rabid on this show that they'll
Yeah.
point stuff out to you all the time. And so we try not to think about, be influenced by what the outside world is interested in, because it is very much about what Ryan wants. And if he wants something to look a certain way, we're doing it. But we do try to constantly make things different and new. And, a lot of it is homages to different things that he's obsessed with. But we're always trying to put a little spin on it. And so we just try and do things that are different. And he's got that kind of brain, though, which is terrific. And it makes for the amazing part of, our attention deficit as artists. Really make this kind of show really generates that cool, let's reinvent this, let's make this different, that kind of feeling.
And then sometimes we're like, oh my God, let's do this and this and this and this. And we're like, why did we do all of that? I'm just thinking of some commitments that we made that we were very excited for in the beginning and sounded so rad. And then it was like, whoa, this is just a ton of work we created to have to recreate, do it over and over and over and over. And it's just not, So sometimes that happens.
True. There are times too when it's like, I know that in your world where it's a lot of my prosthetic stuff, unless it's a character driven and it's on every single day, a lot of it is with you is like, we should do this as a wig. And then it's like, no, I don't want a wig. Ryan's like, I don't want a wig. So then you're bleaching and dyeing Evan's hair blue like every 3 days.
Yes. That was like, no, we want a half an inch of root, some blonde, like it's faded, and blue, but then the right blue, but also Evan doesn't have the sides of his hair, but he doesn't want a wig, and blah, blah, blah. That was like extensions and Frankenstein within an inch of its life, and constant keeping up with. Even Billy, with those colors were nuts.
Billy's hair too.
Those colors were nuts. I'm like, they'd come in the trailer and be like, you guys were living your best life this weekend, weren't you? Because it's all... we got to recolor.
I think it's those looks that end up being the hardest, that are the natural, lived in, nasty, this dude fucked up his hair color, let it grow out, just trying to recreate that and then keep it the same. Oh my gosh.
It is.
That was insanity.
Well done.
Thanks.
Well, I think we all just have our mouths open half the time and like trying to give each other a little like, good job. That was great.
No. Yeah, we all look a little exasperated and then like, just pat each other on the back and give that support of like, you killed it, you nailed it, let it go.
I think that's exactly what you need in those kind of situations. So having a good team with you is paramount.
Oh yeah, I mean our teams are amazing. I don't even know if there's any. I can't even think of any years of people. Maybe a couple, but for the most part, our main teams have just been so amazing.
Everyone's like fully committed, bends over backwards. Like everyone is just as, I guess, in love with the show as we are and appreciates the creativity. I mean, I'm grateful for that.
Oh yeah. I mean, Kim Ayers is my right hand, like literally is feeding me food when I don't have anything to eat. She is incredibly talented and keeps me on track, and she's been there every season. Last season, I didn't do the makeup on the show. I had Carly Herbert and Abby Clausen and Mo Meinhardt were the makeup department. The makeup was amazing on it last year. I was still producing and supervising. And then my husband, Mike Mekash, was in charge of, he was a co-department head last year. And he does all the prosthetics on it, but Mike's been on every season and I can't do the show without him. He's so inventive and creative. So between Kim and Mike, I have the ultimate cool, amazing, inventive team. And we tend to feed off each other, and we're like, an amazing family. And then with Michelle and having her team, she's had a few people on as her keys, and they've been fantastic. I know last year Annalyn Cruz just completely killed the hair looks.
Annalyn Cruz and Tashi Linnell, and also, I mean, the year before it's like Helena and Lydia and Romaine Marcus Myers and Valerie, I can't forget Val Jackson.
Yep.
But, we've had a lot of incredible hairstylists come through. So many.
That is awesome. And I think with a show like that, I mean, you need artists that are up for a challenge, because if they're thinking that they're just going to do a little beach wave and sit on the sidelines all day, I think they're in for a hell of a shock, aren't they?
My rule is no beach waves unless Leslie Grossman forces it. She's the only one who's allowed a beach wave occasionally. It's true.
That's awesome. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
It's a good rule to have, Michelle. So with that design process, I mean, so everything's really coming that first step from Ryan Murphy, and then you guys get to play with what's kind of handed in your direction.
Yeah.
And is he he's pretty involved in the whole development?
In every character creation. Yeah.
And he's he'll have some obscure research that he's like, I want to do it like this, or he'll have like 3 or 4 different ideas that he wants to kind of put together. And then once we get started, I think we're still doing tests and stuff, but he's still hands-on with how he wants the show to look. But he has so many shows going on that sometimes we kind of take a step where we're saying, a lot of it, maybe I can say, no, that's right. That's the way we should go with that, because having worked for him for so many years, I've worked for him since 2003. So there's a lot of, I kind of know his eye and what he wants. It is a little bit of, you're going, okay, that's probably the direction we want to go. And then there's some things where you're like, we really should have him check this out. But in the beginning, it's all about like where the characters are going. And there's just, it's super fast as far as trying to get all that stuff decided and then where it's going.
Do you guys get all the scripts first up, or are they coming through as you're shooting?
Oof.
Coming through. I mean, like almost to the point that we're getting like a partial script the day before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
for sure. Or just surprise characters all the time, really. It's like a Tuesday and they're like, Angela Bassett might come Thursday, heads up. And you're like, to be who? What do you mean? I don't have that wig.
You guys must have very large hats that you pull things out of.
That's right. It's I mean, that was its own amazing creation as Randy.
I want to give Randy
Angela's hairstylist for many, many years. Yeah. Michelle called him up and said, we're recreating the Marie Laveau wig, which was, this 20-pound
braids down past her butt.
Yeah.
And no one could find
it anywhere. We all searched. We looked for, maybe Angela had it, maybe Monty had it. No, couldn't find it. Maybe it was in a box somewhere. You know how well that goes when everybody gets things put into storage. No one could find it. And Randy had it made literally overnight, wasn't it, Michelle? Like within like 10 hours, they made that. Like 4 girls made that overnight. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they stayed up all night and he picked it up at 7 a.m. and brought it to set for us. And I was like,
it was so crazy.
He literally brought Marie Laveau. Otherwise she wouldn't have been there.
That was all him and her and his team of women. I mean, he works like that anyways with her though, all the time. And she's been with him for like 15 years or something, at least, maybe longer.
We would have never been able to do that without Randy. That was
amazing. He's so much fun too. And they came in. I think it was probably even more fabulous than when it was on Coven. It was incredible.
It was crazy. Yeah. Angela was like, can I take this one?
At least you'll know where that one is if you need it again.
Didn't we call that one the bass or the trout or something? It was like the bass. It was like, because you would have it in your hands and it was wrapped in tissue paper. It would weigh like 15 pounds or something. It was crazy.
That was a workout. That wig was a workout.
That's why she's always moving it around so fabulously, because it's like this whole different creation.
She was actually just doing a whole waist workout. That's how she'd swing it back and forth, just work out her waist.
Oh my goodness.
God, yeah.
I love how much you guys have to think on your feet. That's awesome. It just keeps things interesting, doesn't it? You're not getting bored anytime soon.
Oh, no.
No, definitely not on that. No.
You want to come back for more season after season. Well, so that's amazing.
I was going to say, though, in general, though, with like Ryan will give some references, or usually I have the moment of panic of like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And what is this? And blah, blah, blah. And like, then we wind up creating something and growing through that experience, because I was just thinking about Jim on Hollywood, Eryn, and how that meeting basically turned into like, how are we going to sort out Jim's head? But anyway.
You're talking about Henry, who's he playing? Henry Wilson?
Yeah.
And you guys did like a partial bald cap and a hair piece?
Yeah, because Ryan wanted Jim to look just like Henry Wilson, who wore a quote unquote bad toupee. And so Michelle created this toupee with Rob Pickens that had very heavy, root base, and had like, heavier knots and thin through, so you could see his scalp. And I think at one point Ryan was going to have him take the toupee off and put it like next to the bed, and then we were going to see his fine hair. So we had this beautiful bald pate made from Vincent Van Dyke, who's been doing my prosthetics for the past couple years, and Karen Jackson applied. I had Mike come in and do a base underneath the bald pate, create like a base for it to keep the hair very flat, which is what he had done for Versace. He and I did the Edgar Ramirez makeup for Versace, and the same kind of thing where we had to get very thick hair, very flat, to put a prosthetic on, and then put a toupee on over that. And so he came in and did the base of that for me, designed that. Then Karen did that every day, did the makeup, and then Michelle did the wonderful bad toupee on there. And he also wore contacts and teeth to look like Henry Wilson. And so some of the characters on the show, Ryan wanted them to look just like the person, and then other characters were an amalgam of different people.
Okay.
Sorry, I went off into the Hollywood world, back to Horror Story.
That's totally fine. I'm just going to ask Michelle, was that difficult for you to put a toupee on that's meant to look bad?
Well, the hairline was hard for me to accept, but I still was a perfectionist about pushing the lace in and making sure nothing was showing, which, like, why, I guess, But yeah, even though it was supposed to look, bad or whatever, then there's other things. Even in those instances, there's things to obsess over, which, like, for me, it was like, separating it to make sure we saw like the beautiful scalp that was created and blah, blah, blah. It's like, then I'd have different things to obsess over. But sure, it hurts a little. Yeah.
You just have that internal struggle of like, oh, no, but it's meant to be like that. It's meant to be like that. Just that constant reminder of it's meant to be like that.
Well, like, there's a fine line between, like, I could be a perfectionist about something that has to be perfect, or I could be a perfectionist about something that has to be absolutely disgusting and awful. And I kind of like both the same. So
I think we kind of started doing that bald pate thing where we're getting the hair laid down really well, was on the Lizard Girl on Freak Show. I think that we did that. She had to have that bald top of her head where we're putting tattoos over the bald pate, but everything just kind of blends over the top of each other. Like, oh, we did it on that, we'll do that same kind of thing. And it's very much a team effort. I mean, you can't just do it with by yourself, that everybody comes together to figure it out.
That's awesome. So you've flattened down the hair underneath, and then what are you doing?
Yeah, I use the blue Big Sexy gel and like get that down, and that's the same thing I do for a bald cap, is dry that down into a hard candy shell.
And then usually we'll do opsite over it, surgical tape, which is that very fine, very strong, matte, clear tape that has a double-sided peel-away system. And then put that down first, and then that's matted down. Then you can paint over that. You can put Pax paint over that, or whatever you want to put on there to get rid of the darkness of the hair.
Okay. And then it won't create the ridges that the hair is.
And then Vincent made us a little vacuform shell that Michelle put some little wig clips in. And so we glue that down and put that, and then hook that into the hair all across the back. Then the bald silicone pate goes over that. And then the toupee on top of that.
And a paint job in between.
Sorry. Then, you do.
Yeah, no, and a beautiful paint job.
I know, but it's like such a big process. I mean, I think it all together. He was probably the longest in hair and makeup. I think it was like 2 hours or something to get that on every day. But Jim's such a trooper, and he really wanted to look different for that character. He had just finished Big Bang, and he wanted to be not the lovable nerd. He wanted to be the real jerk, which he played very well. So Henry Wilson was ridiculous and so funny, but so mean. But yeah, that was big process.
No, he did it very well. That's awesome. I think it's always nice to have the actor willing to kind of lean into that situation, isn't it? And just have the patience to let you do what you need to do, and then is super happy with the end result. Like, that's awesome.
I think most of our cast knows what they're getting into.
I was just going to say, yeah, everyone is like, they know what they're signing up for, to be like totally transformed no matter what show.
And some of them are much more eager to do stuff. Like Dylan McDermott is ridiculous. He's just always like, I want a mustache, I want sideburns, I want a full beard, I want a long wig, and then I want a short hairdo, and I want it to be gray, and then I want it to be blue. I want to wear teeth. How about contacts? I want to wear a nose. I mean, it's like, that's so much fun. Evan is the same way. Evan Peters is all about, he loves wearing prosthetics, and he loves creating characters. Sarah Paulson's like our crowning jewel. And she's always excited about doing something different as well. And it makes for a really rewarding experience.
Absolutely. It's just more of a team effort, isn't it? It's like everyone's involved in wanting to get the best outcome for the job. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite sources for research when you guys are doing stuff like that? Where do you tend to look for things?
Well, I think each show has its different, amount of where we go for research, depending on if for Freak Show, there was this huge book that's like Taschen book. We went through that, looked through that a lot first, and we started doing, there was a lot of older pictures that we were researching. Sometimes I look on Pinterest. A lot of the stuff for Hollywood started with like Ryan's obsession with Harrell pictures. And then Michelle and I brought in a lot of our family photos, like of our grandparents and what they looked like. We wanted it to have a very real feel. And so each show got a different background of what kind of research we do. I usually always start with just the books that I have at home, as opposed to like looking online, because a lot of stuff, as far as Hollywood goes, there's so much pinup stuff online right now, and you don't really know if you're going to get something that's authentic. So
you can't really tell exactly. You can't always tell that it's exactly the year you're looking for, and I think we get pretty specific on that. Or we try to stay really true to that. We try to be identifiable. We don't want something that's going to be anything that's, we try to go to the stereotype of that year, because that's what lends to the believability. And we had also just done Ratched, which is I think it's the exact same time period. It just has a completely different look to it, though. Hollywood is very like warm and happy and optimistic, where Ratched is just the opposite. It's cool tones, and it's creepy and weird and a little bit harder look to it.
Yeah.
So that was fun. We did that right after.
But same time period in the same
it's like
city?
Exactly the same time period. Like 18 months after the war ended, something like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's cool. I wondered whether from the very beginning with Hollywood, was it a conscious design decision to just make it? It's so beautifully polished.
Yeah, it was. I think a lot of it is that that time period was incredibly glamorous. The post-war optimism was there. Women were wearing lipstick all through the war. It was it was rationed with your uniform. You got a lipstick with your uniform. It promoted optimism, and it made people feel happy. And so a lot of people said they wore red lipstick. I've had a couple of people said they wore red lipstick throughout the entire season of Hollywood, with the exception of like when they're at home. And I was like, yeah, because that's what people wore. There was like 4 colors of red lipstick, and that was it. There wasn't any other shades. Yeah. And it lent to the patriotism of the country and the colors of the wardrobe. And a few people wore a little bit darker colors because it was influenced by the 30s still. Maybe a little bit of the more mature women wore a little bit of a darker red. But for the most part, a lot of it has to do with Simon Dennis as well, who is our cinematographer. And we used a Sony Venice camera, which it gives you that real Technicolor look. Okay. But that was conscientious. I mean, there was a reason behind that. We wanted it to look like the films of that era.
Yeah.
And so the guys look, I've had so many people ask me about how did you make the guys look so polished? And a lot of it had to do with, incredible upkeep on the haircuts. You don't see a lot of
Mm-hmm.
guys that are clean shaven nowadays, and everybody was clean shaven. They
Yeah.
had a beautiful this makeup that was Tarte BB cream, which has a little bit of SPF and mattifier, and just a little bit of color. So but they're all incredibly beautiful people. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into why people look the way they do, but also the lighting and the camera we used. That camera and Simon are incredibly forgiving on lace, and Rock Hudson wore prosthetics. He wore 6-piece prosthetic makeup. And I think I only had one thing corrected in post from talking to Jason Piccioni, who's the head of Fuse Effects, who has been Ryan's longtime visual effects supervisor. He said there were very few corrections, which is great. We're getting to a place that HD cameras are starting to look more like film, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh my
Fantastic.
goodness. You're not having to pump the room full of Atmos to make it not look so
Exactly.
absolutely sharp all the time. Yeah, it's I'm sure it's been driving everybody slowly crazy. So that's nice to hear.
Yeah, I think it's
That's
getting
awesome.
better. That part of it's getting better. I mean,
Yeah.
Ryan traded over to HD cameras on People versus OJ because it was so much courtroom stuff. He said, I'll try it out there. We were still doing film on American Horror Story Hotel.
Oh wow.
And he was just not giving it up. He was like, no, I want it to be film. I spend way too much money trying to fix HD to look like what I want it to look like when I can spend that same amount of money on film. And he really drug his feet, which I loved. And then when they showed that cameras could actually look better, the technology advanced enough that he was happy with the way things looked. And now they're just looking so much better. So it's nothing to be afraid of. It's just all about testing.
Yeah. I think there's definitely a place for the high definition, but not. There's just some things you just don't need to see. You don't want to see everything that clearly. It's just you don't. So with the pieces used on Rock, what was he wearing?
He had a subtle 6-piece prosthetic makeup, which was consisting of ears, a nose, eyelids, and a lower lip. And then later in the season, he wore a set of teeth because
the teeth.
Yeah, Henry Wilson wanted him to get his teeth redone, which that's a true story. A lot of the stuff that you see on that show is based on true character and personality. So a lot of people ask me, like, where did you find the research for that? It's like, well, that's kind of a well-known thing in many biographies that Henry Wilson was like that, or that Rock had his teeth done, or Vivian Leigh was the way she was. And that was part of the whole thing of how Hollywood is really showing people stuff that maybe the public didn't know.
Yeah, I really enjoy that aspect of getting to the end of working on a film or a show and being like, God, I know so much more about that whole situation than I did when I started.
Definitely.
Like things that you wouldn't normally research or look into or know about, you end up becoming really quite knowledgeable about those people or that era or that time. It's awesome.
And Michelle, you had a lot of upkeep with Jake, who played Rock.
A lot of color and cutting. His hair is kind of a monster if it's not tamed.
Right.
Like really, really tamed. So yeah, we had a lot of that going on in the trailer. On top of all the wigs. So what color
is he? Lighter naturally?
Right. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So who did you have in wigs?
Oh,
should we say who didn't you have in a wig?
Yeah, it's more like who didn't we have in wigs. We did. Darren Criss was not in a wig. David Cornsweet was not in a wig. Joe Mantello was not, and Jake Picking was not. But Jeremy Pope, Dylan McDermott, Holland, Patty, Laura, Samara Weaving's 3-piece like a horseshoe, and Mira, a couple of wigs, Latifah, a couple of wigs, Michelle Krusik as Anna Mae Wong, wig and bang piece separately, Vivian Leigh, different wigs.
Yeah.
Everyone was kind of, but I have to say also in terms of people coming in and sort of last minute, as we do sometimes, I need to say it was not all custom wigs.
Yeah. It can't always be.
Yeah, no. There was a lot of stock wigs, and like if we could throw a front on something, it would happen. And if not, got to figure it out last minute.
The Eleanor Roosevelt wig was like 3 days. We
Eleanor
made teeth
Roosevelt.
for her.
Yeah.
I didn't, obviously, but Vincent Van Dyke's guys made it. I was Jason James made those teeth for Vincent. Beautifully done teeth. And that was, I mean, Harriet had played Eleanor many times on Broadway, I think. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I guess it was, because it was like 3 times already that she played.
Oh,
Eleanor
wow.
Yeah. So
Roosevelt,
she just
I
kind of
think.
came in, stepped into that role very well. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
she'd never had that kind of a wig, and she never had teeth before. And so she was very excited about that.
Yeah, well, it's the next level, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that was like, I called Rob Pickens in a moment of panic, and I was like, I just need a hairline. This is what we're, and
Yeah.
we're just, it was nuts. I'm lucky he still talks to me. You know what I mean? After everything's so last minute, I'm like, well, now I need, and now I need, and now I need. Yeah, it was Rob Pickens, and Natasha did Holland's wig, and Paul Huntley did Patty LuPone's wig. But Rob did the majority. Yeah.
They're beautiful. I mean, I just couldn't stop looking at Avis's hairdo. That situation was amazing. I loved it.
That was my wonderful key, Barry Lemo. So he knocked that out of the park. Yeah, she looked stunning.
Beautiful. Just all of them. I mean, it's so nice to watch something that is so pretty. Just every element. Just everyone's gorgeous. They're wearing beautiful costumes. The sets are amazing. And as you say, how they shot it, looking like Technicolor, like it was just bright and beautiful, and it was a lot of fun. And then it had such a lovely happy ending. So
I know.
A much preferred ending.
A lot of people really wanted, I mean, timely with the virus and everything. People were home. They were looking forward to watching something that was uplifting. And from several people told me it was so satisfying and so sincere. I really, that's one of the reasons why I loved it so much, was it just was so, a lot of people watched it straight through, like all 7 episodes straight through. It's how you really wanted it to be. I've actually had so much feedback about Anna May Wong, which I've had several of my friends that are from Asian backgrounds have been incredibly moved to write me these letters and saying how it's the first time they've seen themselves represented on screen. And I mean, it's just like so moving. And I've talked to Michelle Krusek, who played Anna May Wong, several times. I've sent her messages of like, this person wrote this to me. I wanted you to see it.
Wow.
Send it to Ryan. Ryan's like, that's why we do these things. And it's like, that's so cool. I mean, American Horror Story is an amazing project to work on, and it feeds back to my incredible love of horror and suspense and all that stuff rolled into one. But to have, to have a show that you work on be so identifiable to so many different people, and to say that it moved them is really like, wow, this is so cool. This is such a cool project. I mean, we kind of knew it was going to be a cool project, but to then have your peers say back to you, and to have like, B. Neal and Rick Baker email you and say, we love this show, this is an incredible show, is like, oh my God, so cool. Super cool.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, that's an incredibly neat part of it, is to have somebody tell you that they loved what you did, is
like our
really
peers.
amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like when you said that people were able to just like bang out all 7 episodes one after the other, I think it is because it is such a feel good situation. Like there are certain shows that I can only watch 1 episode of because I'm like, oh, that was heavy. I need a break. So it's nice and refreshing to be able to watch something that makes you feel like that. That's awesome.
I agree.
Yeah.
So Eryn, now you're doing more producing work now, and as a makeup designer on the same job, how do you find a balance between those 2 roles?
A lot of it started back on Nip Tuck when I started working with Ryan, is that he couldn't always be on set, and he didn't always like having like a producer figure on set. We had them for a little while. And then he kind of started saying to me things like, you're my eyes and ears on set. I want you to be able to say, that's too much blood. That's not the right amount of blood, or I don't want that to happen. And I want you to be responsible for that part of it. And I was like, to do it above, to tell directors that. And he was like, yes. And so there was a couple times when the directors said, no, this is how I'm doing it. I'm the director. And then I got called into the office and said, it's your responsibility to stand up for what I want.
And you're like, can you tell the director that?
And I was like, oh my God, right? So I'd always be really, I'd always be really courteous about it, obviously. I'd say like, I don't think Ryan really wants that much blood, or I think we should probably not put a black eye on this character. And it kind of rolled into, I think, years of that. And, I think on American Horror Story, it started to be like, what do you think we should do this? I'm like, we can do that with visual effects. We can do that. We can move on and we can do this in post and whatever. So it just kind of built on itself. And so it turned into Ryan saying, I'm going to do this at the show, in New York. And can you staff it for me? Can you find the people to do the show? He didn't want to really have to think about the makeup aspect of it, as far as getting people that would get along with him, that would get Ryan's philosophy and how he works. So, and then we would kind of like, I would talk to the makeup person, or maybe there was a hair person or a personal or something, and just kind of get going on it and keep an eye on the show. Most of the people that I've hired to do that job have done such an incredible job that I haven't even had to like check back in with them. Like once they get going, it's like, oh, they get the idea, they get the philosophy, they get the Ryan Murphy world. So like Susie Diaz does 911, and Sherry Lawrence does Pose, and she does The Politician in New York. Autumn Butler did the first season of Politician here. And so I ended up getting this, producer credit because I like to call it like an aesthetic producer because most of the time it's stuff that we're doing on set, and I'm keeping an eye on stuff where people may say, I'm having a problem getting this approved. Can you help me? Yes, I can. And I figure that out and I can help them that way. So a lot of it is that it's not necessarily me like as a line producer or like running money parts of it or anything. It's more of like overseeing the look of shows for Ryan.
Okay. So those two hats can kind of
they go hand in
together
hand
a little bit. Yeah, that's okay. That's very helpful.
And so a lot of it happens on set where I can say like, stop obsessing about that. That's fine. That's going to be great. Like just because I have an idea of what he likes. And it just kind of rolled into when he started the HALF initiative, which was including more women and minorities on set. It was super cool to see the way you want a set to look like. You want to see more men and women working together. You want to see African American and Asian and Hispanic people all working together. And that's how it's been since he started that program. And then I think once he realized that, he also realized that he wasn't having enough female directors, and that was really lacking in female directors and minority directors. So he started doing that. And then he also realized after that that he should be including people within his company that have been with him for a really long time, which led to Alexis Woodall Martin running Ryan Murphy Productions, and also Lou Eyrich, who is Ryan's costume designer since Popular, and myself getting this producer credit. So
that's very cool.
Yeah, we help him out in a lot of aspects of it. I know a lot of aspects of the show and the looks of the show and making sure that everything is running smoothly. Not to say we haven't had our bumps and we haven't had to go in there and like fix situations before. We have had problems in the past where we've had to step in and actually do like firing stuff, which is super hard and horrible. Yeah. But you learn from it and you grow from it. And I think people, I might be speaking for Michelle here, but I think that people feel like they can come to you with problems and you can fix them, or maybe they're not being heard in other aspects of being on a crew.
I was going to say it's great to have everyone needs an Eryn around. Like, hey, so what do you think? This is okay, right?
You're going to understand more than anyone where Michelle or someone from the makeup department or a more creative like artist side is coming from. So that's awesome.
I'm very honored.
Like, not only is she great to spend 18 hours a day with, but you can also ask her lots of other questions.
And I really did. I mean, I really dig it. There's been a couple times where I've run at the same time. I've been in charge of like 3 shows, and then I rolled into a 4th show, and I was like, I can't keep track of that many scripts, because it was like 40 scripts at one point. And and part of it, I realized when you just keep adding more and more, like, here, read these scripts. You're like, okay, and you're keeping track of it and you're trying to keep it in your brain. But it's the help of team members and working with department heads like Michelle and like Chris Clark and Sherry and Susie and everybody out there that are doing such beautiful work. Vincent Van Dyke, who I can't do anything without as far as prosthetics go, and being a moral support as well. It's very rewarding. I mean, even with all that stress, it's very rewarding, and I couldn't imagine my career being at this place with doing producing stuff as well. But super honored and happy about it.
Yeah, and I think more the challenging things do end up being the things that you feel most proud of, I think.
Oh yeah, like, well, we got through that again. We did it again. It's great.
And then there's always the line of, it wasn't this hard last year. Yes, it was. We say this every year.
That's so true.
That's something in the brain that happens though. Don't women do that with childbirth? They forget all the a lot of the details, so they go and do it again.
And then it feels so daunting, like, oh, I wish it was last year because that feels really comfortable now.
It's so true.
So American Horror Story is going for another season, number 10.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think it's supposed to go for a few more actually, but
I think it's signed to 13.
Oh, that's a good number for horror. That sounds perfect.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it was announced that they were going to do American Horror Stories now too. There was going to be a whole separate spinoff where it's kind of like Amazing Stories, where each episode is a completely different story, which I love that idea.
Cool. Yeah, so that's short stories within a season.
Yeah, so that would be neat.
Yeah,
that's
cool. Yeah. So we'll see.
I was going to say, because you guys both did a season of 911 together. Mm-hmm. And I was going to ask, how is that? I mean, obviously, it's quite a different show from something like American Horror Story, but hair and makeup wise, were you still coming across those challenges and things?
And it was really fun.
We had a lot of fun together. For hair, it was fairly straightforward, but there was always, there's tons of doubles and it's a lot of work and multiple units and, all that stuff still. And kind of creating these catastrophes. There was I think each catastrophe kind of, is that the right word to use? Incidents. They all presented their own challenges. I feel like makeup probably more than hair. Recreating that snake.
The snakes were so beautiful.
I mean, you guys did a lot of work with
I think it was we were coming off of Cult, and that was so hard. And I think 911 seemed a little bit more sedate and straightforward, and we were kind of pulling a lot of stuff from Vincent's shop of him having to create stuff in just a few days' time. But the snake was really beautiful, and
the baby was awesome,
amazing. The cast is so sweet and lovely and fun.
Yeah, and fun. Yeah, I think we got to have a little bit of space to breathe and laugh more.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's needed every now and again, isn't it? Just having that variety of different work coming along keeps you sane.
Definitely, it switches up your brain a little bit. And I mean, the heightened part, I think, of 911 is that the stunt work on that is all practical. It's crazy. Like at one point, there was somebody jumping off a roof into a balcony and knocking somebody over that was trying to jump off the building, and they did that all practically. I mean, there was cables, but it was insane. I mean, a lot of it was coming up with stunt doubles, I think was a lot of it. So Michelle, mostly Michelle.
That's always challenging, especially when you're seeing them for the first time that morning and you're like, oh, you don't work. What am I going to do?
Yeah, that's always the most fun.
I think Mark was really, really amazing at that, though, the stunt coordinator for that first season. He was great about bringing people in that looked very similar. We had the same kind of group of people that were doubling all different people. So
I just had a flashback of Mark teasing me on Horror Story that he was texting me something ridiculous, that there was this stunt coming up and I had no clue what he was talking about. And he was watching me from across, just watching me from across the way, laughing because he was watching all my expressions and how I was texting him back with such fury in my shoulders. You can't throw this at me.
He's hilarious.
Messing with the hair chick.
We work around really fun people. Yeah.
That's not cool.
He's like, I'm just kidding. I'm just watching you. I was like, oh my God.
The relief. Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Fun.
When you guys are finding artists to put your team together, what are you guys normally looking for?
I mean, the talent part is really important. Somebody that gets us,
that seems somebody
that is fun to hang out with for a really long time. That's part of it. I mean,
Yes.
I think it's like with every show, you're bringing people in that have your back. I know that the people that I hire, I want them to be able to do prosthetics as well as beauty makeup. I want them to be able to do beard laying and, do cuts and bruises, injuries, all that stuff. Because a lot of times I'm saying, this is your character. This is what I want. They'll send me a picture. I'll say, pump it up or take it down or whatever. But I don't want to have to be hand holding my team members because I have too much going on. So I want somebody to have a good sense of, being independent and making decisions on their own. And I can always fine tune from there. So I like people that, are
reasonably self-sufficient.
self-sufficient and confident.
Creative and can read my mind.
Yeah, we're always like, Michelle, you need to speak, tell us what you want.
I know I gotta communicate. It's like, but yeah. Or like, wig work is big. You have to at least be able to put one on, if we throw one at you, or match something, recreate something. Very chill personalities, nice people to be around, and people who care as much as you do about the show you're working on. I'm like, the worst thing I can hear is like, well, it's a paycheck. Like, that's really hard for me because I think we take what we do pretty seriously and and good at teamwork.
Our main teams, I think across the board, our main teams have been incredibly excellent.
Yes.
We do get, like on Hollywood, Michelle and I had 40 plus makeup and hair people on any given day, making 350 people look incredibly put together and beautiful in 1947, 48 looks. I would not bring back certain people if I heard that they were saying things to younger artists like, how did you get on here? Or who did you talk to or schmooze to get on this job? I've been trying to get on this job I've been trying to get in with these people forever, and you just waltz in here. I mean, that happened a few times. I'm like, they're not coming back. I mean, that just doesn't work for me. I want newer people who probably maybe have been doing makeup even longer than people that are saying those kind of things. They just have gotten in the union recently. I want everybody to feel comfortable. I want everybody to have a good time. And I've always have my ear open. I always know what's going on with everybody. So
no matter how many people are there.
There's such a strange attitude to take. I feel like I'm that person that when I see someone maybe that I haven't worked with before or that's new into the union or they're young or something, I'm like, oh, I wonder what they can do that I can't. Like, I wonder what I can learn from them. And I wonder what they, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like fresh meat, like fresh talent. This is awesome. I find that more exciting than, it's bizarre. Anyway.
We had incredible hairstylists all around, but there was a few that things would like some gorgeous hair would stand out in the background, let's say, or whatever. And I would just be like, who did that? And it was, there was a lot of newer people showing some drop dead gorgeous work. And it was really fun to meet new people and see what everyone can do. But everyone across the board was great. It was just, there was some moments where there would be a newer member that was just like, really? I did that. It was very exciting.
Oh, that's cool. That would have made their day. Absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome. Yay. So I guess I just wanted to ask you also, what have you guys got coming out? You mentioned that you've got, like, Ratchet's not out yet, is it?
No. Isn't that in the fall?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got that to look forward to. Michelle mentioned to me that you guys worked on Run.
Yes.
We did a movie together. Yes.
That's cool.
That was actually really fun too. We were up in Winnipeg for that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Freezing.
Oh, in the winter? Oh, ladies.
So much fun.
Come on.
Yeah, we went literally straight from Apocalypse. Eryn had her huge Mekash Bash Halloween party, and like the very next morning at the crack of dawn, like everyone was packing, out of the not Hollywood, the Horror Story trailer from Apocalypse, and Eryn and I were like, she got on a plane right from the party. We got off the plane.
It's very rock and
Winnipeg.
roll.
It was a little rock and roll.
It was.
We like shipped off to 16 degrees. We're like, woohoo.
Yeah, how was that to work in?
We pretty much kept our mouths shut because those guys had a huge winter ahead of them still.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were getting out.
Ours was pretty mild when we were up there, but Doug Morrow was the department head of makeup.
And Pina Robinson was the department head of
And it's basically
hair.
just the four of us on the entire film, and we had so much fun. Michelle and I had really great little apartments in Winnipeg, and we spent a lot of time watching the snow come down. It snowed probably like 85% of the time we were up there.
Oh,
It's like every day you would wake up and it was snowing. It's like, how is
There's
this
a couple
possible?
times where Sarah was having to work outside and she couldn't even say her lines, like her mouth was frozen open.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we were in we could barely move because we were in so many layers, and she
in
was
like a sweater outside. But it was really fun. It was supposed to come out, unfortunately, poor Anish, Mother's Day. It was supposed to come out on Mother's Day because it's based on a mother-daughter relationship. Okay. And they had to push it. So I'm not sure when it's going to come out now. Maybe this fall.
I don't know when.
We have to wait and see.
Well, we'll look forward to it. That's cool. Well, it's something to look forward to for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you guys if there was a tool or a product that you would not want to work without.
I'm laughing.
There's so many.
Definitely a few.
I get it. But the standout one that you're just like, if you took this off me, I would die.
I mean, I know for, the basis of what we do with prosthetics, I know, like I said before, OpSite is huge for me. That helps with everything. So many different things like pulling an eye down or like making it into aging, de-aging tapes for the back of the neck or that's a product I really love. I love all the PPI products, Premier products, their glues and their paints. Senna makes a beautiful, I'm obsessed with it. And they just keep sending it to me because I love it so much. Their Cheeky and Uplift it's this color. It's a very, very, very light pink. And I like to put it around the eyes on people to make them look a little bit more refreshed. And Sarah Paulson calls it magic.
Everyone's got to have a bit of magic in the makeup bag.
Yeah, it's really pretty, and I really like that a lot. What about you, Michelle? What's your thing?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always like with my tiny YS Park metal tail comb or like a pick comb, tint brush, a wooden tint brush, always obsessive with flyaways. And God, I don't know, a Mason Pearson, definitely Dust It. Dust It is, I mean, I love that stuff. Eryn Co hairspray. Depends on what we're doing, you know?
Absolutely.
It really does. And like the PPI adhesive is one of my favorites, KD151. Like, there's so many. Oh, and I can't live without an orange stick.
Well, there you go.
I lay lace with it with an orange.
Take the orange stick off Michelle and she's going to cry.
Yeah, I see so many people doing lace work and hers is so beautiful. And anytime you don't have to correct something with visual effects which happens all the time, but if you don't need to spend the extra money on it, why not? She does beautiful lace work.
Thank you. That's always my goal. You're welcome. Tell everyone. You're welcome. And I'm like, there is no post. Forget about post. Yeah. If anything, they're going to knock some shine off a little glue. If you forget about post.
Once in a while thing where, if you have a good relationship with your post department, with your visual effects department, and you can text them and say like, hey, can you keep an eye out for blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Some things are out of control, but
that's an easy fix. But that's an easy fix times, every frame is $100,000. So
just do it right in the first place. Just going back, I just want to go back, Michelle, and ask you, because you were talking about, what you look for in a team and stuff like that and people that can deal with wigs. And I don't know if you feel the same, but I feel that there's a real there's a real lack in wig knowledge and how to just from start to finish with wigs. And I'm just curious as to how we can help the situation, because I just feel like so much more training needs to happen for our hairstylists, and I think they want it. Like the need and the want is there. You'll be doing your part with everybody that you come across, showing them how you like it to be done, which is the training within itself. So that's awesome.
Well, also, I feel bad when I'm like, okay, this needs to happen, or this wig, blah, blah, blah. And I see that someone doesn't know, or they're scared. And, you know, they more often than not are just like, I'm happy to learn. I want to learn, but it's not something I ever have had experience in. And I love showing them when there's time, when things are insane and you can't just throw something at someone. That's really hard. But I kind of have been saying for a while, like, I feel like there needs to be at least a beginner mandatory type class, I think. So everyone just knows at least how to put on a stunt wig. Because I mean, honestly, that's what I'm talking about is I've run into a lot of issues with someone just being like, I absolutely don't know what to do with this for a stunt. So there's, you know, that's really important. Forget about the laying of lace and all of that, because that's another story. But yeah, no, I've noticed a real issue with it. And like I said, I feel bad. I mean, I guess I feel the fear when you ask someone to do that and they don't know what to do. And I feel bad.
Yeah. I mean, you want to give them that knowledge to be able to be empowered by it, by being able to go like, yes, I can do this. I've got it. Don't worry about it. I'm good. But I feel like it's also too, like someone can go to a class and you can show them like once or twice or something, but it's that repetitive nature. They need to be able to, you know, even if it's just that one stunt person for 3 weeks putting that wig on every day, just to have that repetitive action of being able to learn how to do it.
Yeah, I definitely, you know, if there's people who are working with us that need more help in one way or another, especially with wigs, I'm always like, take this stunt double. This is your stunt double. You know, like, it's the best place. It's the best way to practice, because you could just keep working and perfecting this stunt double.
Totally.
You know?
Unless it's 600 pairs of bangs that somebody put on as a wig.
Is there a story?
Oh,
is there a story behind this?
Is there ever?
That's it.
I love that when I'm like, my head sometimes is going to like blow off of my body and like roll off stage, and Eryn is trying to control the laughter in it, because there's been some real moments. Oh my God. That was okay. Now I'm laughing at it, of course, but, and I'm not sure how far into that story I should go, except for saying that I looked at her like my head was going to fall off, and she was trying to control her laughter. And I was like, I need you to dirty necklines for me right now.
Oh my God. I'm crying right now. I can't even believe it. I'm on the side of defending people that are trying to do something correct. It was one of those things like, here is 6 stunt guys that have to have hair coming out of the back of their helmets.
Okay.
And it was a lot of,
and like take and create.
Like, here's a bin of hair, like figure it out.
Yeah.
But it was, oh my God, it was so funny. It was just like 65 like bang sets that have been glued all over someone's head to make a wig.
Like all together in like a line and wrapped around.
Okay.
And it was a moment of, you know, we have to let this go, but I'm going to drag Eryn through the mud with me to try and save the day, because, you know, because Lady Gaga's waiting and we have to do this right now.
See, that's teamwork right there. You guys obviously work well as a team.
I find Michelle's stress levels hilarious, because she turns into this like, oh my God, Eryn. And I'm just like, oh, I'm going to die right now. I'm going to die. I'm trying to hold it together. I'm like, hey, what do you need me to do?
No, I could see it. It was like your whole body was about
because
to
it was
crack
so.
up. I know. It was a moment of panic.
I was like, guy walking on set, and you're like, what the F is that?
And I think, and costumes, like Sarah Dustrego was like, oh, that's pretty funny. And I was like, no, it isn't. And I literally just ran straight for you. And I was like, please save the day, please. Oh my God. It still haunts my dreams. I don't even know what to say. It still haunts my dreams.
It happens, doesn't it? I mean, it happens. You have to learn to breathe.
Literally, this is like constant. On American Horror Story or any of Ryan's shows, you're just hearing like, Eryn! Eryn saves the day.
You guys
all
are
the
a good
time.
team, though. That's cool. That's great.
We have a lot of fun. It's good.
And who would you guys like to hear on the podcast?
Oh, I'd like to hear some Deborah Denevere. As far as makeup goes, I always like to hear some Vivian Baker.
Like, I want to add to makeup.
V always be. And Camille Friend, of course. She might be a great person to have on too.
Camille would be great. I want to say Yolanda Toussaint.
That'd be great.
Terry Bolleo. Kate
There's
Giorgio.
so many great people.
I know, there's so many.
Yeah.
I know.
So many.
I just always love to ask. But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me. This has been brilliant.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad I figured out all the complexities of podcastum.
You did very well. Now we're all technical geniuses. For links to see more of Michelle and Eryn's work, go to our Instagram at The Last Looks Podcast or the episode notes page on our website, www.thelastlookspodcast.com. The Last Looks Podcast would like to thank Brett Stanley and Sabrina Castro. The song Fun Time by DJ Quads. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
That's a wrap, people.